A weak horse is rejected at an auction. A millionaire buys it and turns it into a champion. What happens next will leave you speechless. At the majestic Sunrise Ranch, located on the outskirts of Houston, Texas, Jack Thompson gazed at the horizon from his luxurious office. At 45, he had achieved everything money could buy, but his eyes reflected an emptiness that no bank account could fill. The walls of his office were decorated with awards and photographs of his business successes, but none showed a moment of true happiness. "Mr. Thompson," interrupted Martha, his lifelong personal assistant, "Mr. Rodriguez is on the line waiting to confirm your attendance at this afternoon's horse auction." Jack sighed, running his hand through his graying hair. "Tell him I'll be there, but only out of courtesy. You know I haven't been interested in these social events lately." Martha, a middle-aged woman who knew Jack better than anyone, approached with maternal concern. "Mr. Thompson, with all due respect, you need to get out more. Since Mrs. Sarah—" She stopped, aware of touching on a sensitive topic. "It's been 5 years, Martha," Jack interrupted, his voice soft but firm. "The divorce is in the past. I've simply lost interest in the frivolities of our social class." However, something in the air that morning felt different. Perhaps it was the sunlight streaming through the large windows, or maybe the scent of jasmine wafting from the garden, but Jack felt a strange restlessness, as if fate was whispering that something extraordinary was about to happen. At the other end of the city, in the dilapidated facilities of the old Lone Star racetrack, a chestnut horse with a haggard appearance observed the world with surprisingly lively eyes. The employees called him the Forgotten One, a name that reflected his current sad condition, but not his noble lineage. Emma Sanders, a young newly graduated veterinarian, was the only one who saw something special in him. "There's greatness in your eyes," she whispered as she brushed his dull coat. "You just need someone to believe in you." "Emma!" The gruff voice of Don, the manager, interrupted the moment. "Stop wasting time with that horse. Today's the auction, and we need to prepare the specimens that actually have a chance of selling." "But sir, if you'd let me show his potential," Emma tried to argue. "Enough! That horse will go to the auction as the last lot, and if no one buys him, you know what his fate will be," Don declared, walking away with heavy steps. Emma hugged the horse's neck, holding back tears. "There has to be someone who sees what I see in you," she murmured. Meanwhile, Jack was preparing for the event with reluctance. His chauffeur, Robert, an older man who had been working for the Thompson family for decades, observed him through the rearview mirror. "You know, boss, my father used to say that when the soul is restless, it's because it's looking for something that the heart has already found, but the mind hasn't recognized yet." Jack smiled slightly. Robert always had some piece of folk wisdom to share. "And what do you think my soul is looking for, old friend?" "Only you can discover that, Mr. Thompson, but something tells me that today you might find an answer." The auction would be held at the prestigious International Equestrian Club of Houston, a place Jack knew well from his more sociable years. Upon arrival, several familiar faces greeted him with surprise and joy, not having expected to see the hermit of Sunrise Ranch, as some jokingly called him. "Jack, old friend!" exclaimed Alex Rodriguez, the event organizer and former college classmate. "So glad you decided to join us. We have exceptional specimens today." Jack responded politely, but his attention was elsewhere. Something in the atmosphere, the scent of fresh hay and leather, awakened memories of his childhood when he used to ride with his father on the old family ranch. He remembered the feeling of freedom, of connection to something greater than himself. As he walked through the stables before the start of the event, his steps led him to the last compartment, away from the main specimens. There, in the dimness, a pair of deep and wise eyes looked at him intently. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. "He's a lost cause," commented one of the stable hands upon seeing him stop. "Comes from Lone Star, probably end up in—" But Jack was no longer listening. In those eyes he had seen something that transported him to another time, another place. He saw pain, yes, but also an unbreakable dignity, an inner strength that refused to be bent by circumstances. Sometimes, Jack thought, fate presents us with exactly what we need at the precise moment, even if it's not what we were looking for. The main hall of the International Equestrian Club of Houston buzzed with activity as the country's equestrian elite settled into their seats. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the space with a golden glow, and the murmur of elegant conversations floated in the perfumed air. Jack Thompson, seated in the last row, observed everything with a mixture of boredom and curiosity. "Jack!" A familiar voice pulled him from his thoughts. It was Victoria Sandoval, his ex-sister-in-law, as elegant and haughty as ever. "I didn't expect to see you here. Sarah mentioned that you had become, how should I put it, less sociable." "Nice to see you too, Victoria," Jack responded with a forced smile. "I see my ex-wife and you are still as close as ever." "Oh, darling, you know that in this society, gossip is the best currency," Victoria laughed, sitting down next to him, uninvited. "Have you seen the specimens? The Herrera's stallion is magnificent. They say they're asking a fortune for it." Jack nodded distractedly, his mind wandering to the stable where he had seen those eyes that had disturbed him so much. At that moment, Emma hurriedly entered the hall, her worn shoes contrasting with the designer heels surrounding her. "Excuse me," she murmured as she made her way through the crowd until she reached Don, who received her with a furrowed brow. "What are you doing here? You should be with the horses," the manager whispered with irritation. "Sir, please let me present the last horse. I know his history, his capabilities." "Enough," Don cut her off. "We already decided that George will present him. You're too emotional about that animal. Now go back to your place." From his seat, Jack couldn't hear the conversation, but something in the determined expression of the young veterinarian caught his attention. He saw her walk away with slumped shoulders but with a gleam of rebellion in her eyes. The auction began with its usual pomp. The best specimens paraded before the enthusiastic audience, while the figures rose vertiginously. Victoria applauded enthusiastically every time someone from her social circle made a significant purchase. "Isn't it exciting?" she asked Jack. "It's like seeing power and beauty merge in every bid." "It's curious," he replied, "how we can put a price on such noble beings." Finally, the moment of the last lot arrived. George, a stable hand with a bored expression, led the chestnut horse towards the center of the hall. The animal limped slightly, its coat dull under the bright lights. "Final lot," announced the auctioneer in a monotone voice. "Chestnut horse, 7 years old, from Lone Star. We start with a minimum base." The barely concealed laughter and derogatory comments didn't take long to start. Victoria brought a hand to her mouth containing a mocking smile. "My God, how dare they present such a specimen at an event like this?" she whispered to Jack. "It's almost an insult." But Jack wasn't listening to her. His eyes were fixed on the horse, which, despite its condition, kept its head high as if it knew it deserved to be there as much as any other. At that moment, the animal turned its head, and their gazes met again. Emma, from a corner of the hall, observed the scene with a lump in her throat. She saw how the millionaire in the last row leaned forward, completely absorbed in the horse, and a small flame of hope lit up in her chest. "Any offers?" asked the auctioneer, preparing to close the event. "Well, in that case, 50,000. Jack's voice resonated in the suddenly silent hall. Victoria turned to him with wide eyes. "Jack, have you lost your mind? That horse isn't worth even a tenth of that." 50,000 going once. The auctioneer seemed as surprised as the 60,000, a new voice rose from the back of the hall. It was William Herrera, known for his taste for bets and challenges. 70,000, Jack responded without hesitation. "Jack!" Victoria grabbed his arm. "You can't be serious. What will people say? What will Sarah say when she finds out?" 100,000, Jack's voice sounded firm and clear, silencing any other potential offer. The silence that followed was absolute. The auctioneer, after a dramatic pause, struck his gavel. "Sold to Mr. Thompson." While those present murmured and speculated about his apparent madness, Jack calmly stood up. As he passed by Emma, he noticed that the young woman was looking at him with a mixture of gratitude and admiration. "Mr. Thompson," she called softly, "that horse, and there's something you should know about him." Jack stopped, intrigued. "I'm listening." "His real name is Lightning. Emma began, her eyes shining with emotion. "And he has a story that deserves to be told." The afternoon light tinged the gardens of the International Equestrian Club of Houston with gold as Jack and Emma walked towards the stables. The murmur of the post-auction party faded behind them, replaced by the soft neighing of the horses. "Lightning comes from one of the best bloodlines in Argentina," Emma explained, her eyes shining with passion as she spoke. His paternal grandfather was a champion in multiple international competitions, but 2 years ago during the National Grand Prix— "Emma!" Don's sharp voice interrupted her explanation. The manager was approaching with large strides, his face reddened by irritation. "What do you think you're doing? The sale paperwork needs to be processed immediately." "I'm informing Mr. Thompson about the history of his new acquisition," she responded, standing tall with dignity despite her evident nervousness. "Don," Jack intervened with a calm but firm voice, "I would appreciate it if Miss Sanders finished sharing the information about Lightning with me. The papers can wait a few minutes." The manager hesitated, clearly divided between his usual authority and the respect due to an important buyer. "As you wish, Mr. Thompson. But Emma, I want you in my office as soon as you're done." When Don walked away, Jack noticed the tension in Emma's shoulders. "Is he always like this?" "It's complicated," she replied, heading towards the stable, where Lightning was waiting. "Don has a very traditional view of the equestrian business. For him, horses are just numbers on a spreadsheet." Upon reaching Lightning's compartment, the horse raised its head, its bright eyes fixed on Jack. Emma took an old photograph from her pocket and handed it to him. "This was Lightning 2 years ago," she explained. The image showed a magnificent horse, its coat shining like polished copper, posing with a young rider after a competition. "What happened?" Jack asked, noticing the vast difference with the animal in front of him. "During the National Grand Prix, his rider, Anthony Sanders, my brother, had an accident. Lightning was injured trying to protect him. After that, the former owners lost interest. They sold him to Lone Star for a fraction of his value, and there—" Her voice broke slightly. Jack waited, respecting her moment of emotion. "The new administrators didn't know or didn't care about his true value. They relegated him to heavy work, ignored his special needs. When I arrived as a veterinarian 6 months ago, I could barely recognize him." Jack approached the horse, extending a hand that Lightning sniffed with curiosity. "And your brother?" "Anthony recovered physically, but he never rode again. He moved to Spain. He couldn't bear to see how the equestrian world kept turning without him." Emma caressed the horse's neck. "Since then, I've tried to protect Lightning, but my resources are limited." At that moment, the sound of heels on the pavement announced Victoria's arrival, followed by William Herrera. "Jack, are you still here?" she exclaimed with fake surprise. "Oh, I see you're getting to know your new acquisition better." William approached the compartment, studying Lightning with a critical eye. "Interesting choice, Thompson. Although I must say I'm surprised. I didn't know you were interested in charity projects." "Every investment has its purpose, William," Jack responded calmly. "Some are more evident than others." "Of course," Herrera smiled, but there was something calculating in his gaze. "Although I wonder if you know the whole story of this animal. The rumors about the accident in the Grand Prix." Emma visibly tensed, but before she could speak, Jack intervened. "I prefer to form my own opinions, based on facts, not rumors." "As you wish," William replied, stepping back with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "But if you decide this project isn't for you, I'd be happy to make you an offer." When Victoria and William walked away, Emma sighed deeply. "There's something you should know, Mr. Thompson. My brother's accident, it wasn't as simple as it seemed. There were interests at stake, bets, pressures." "Are you suggesting it wasn't an accident?" Jack asked, his interest increasing. "All I know is that after that day, many people wanted Lightning to disappear from the competitive circuit, and they almost succeeded." Emma looked directly into Jack's eyes. "That's why I was so surprised that you bought him. It's as if fate had intervened." Jack observed the horse, which maintained its noble bearing despite its current state. "Maybe it did," he murmured. "Would you be interested in helping me restore his glory?" Emma's eyes lit up. "Are you serious?" "Completely. But first, I need you to tell me everything you know about what really happened at the National Grand Prix. As the sun finished setting, casting long shadows over the stables, Emma began to reveal a story that would change not only Lightning's fate, but also that of everyone involved. Dawn was tinting the sky pink when the horse transport truck crossed the majestic gates of Sunrise Ranch. Martha was waiting at the main entrance with a mixture of curiosity and concern on her face. She had worked for Jack for so long that she could allow herself to express her opinions openly. "Mr. Thompson," she began as her boss got out of his car, "I've prepared everything according to your instructions, but are you sure about this? The gossip at the club hasn't stopped since yesterday." Jack smiled, accustomed to his housekeeper's frankness. "Gossip is the favorite pastime of those who have nothing better to do, Martha. Besides," he added, looking towards the truck where Emma was supervising Lightning's descent, "I have a good feeling about this." The horse stepped onto solid ground cautiously, his alert eyes studying the new environment. The newly renovated stables of the ranch stretched out to the right, while to the left, extensive green pastures were lost on the horizon. "It's beautiful," Emma whispered, admiring the property. Dressed in worn jeans and a work shirt, she seemed out of place amidst so much luxury, but her discomfort was surpassed by her professional concern. "We'll need to establish a routine immediately. His nutritional state is delicate, and the injury to his hind leg requires constant attention." "I've hired the best team according to your recommendations," Jack replied. "Dr. Mitchell will arrive this afternoon for the initial evaluation." "Dr. Michael Mitchell?" Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "He's one of the most renowned veterinarians in the country. And now he'll be part of our team," Jack confirmed. "I want the best for Lightning." As they walked towards the stables, Robert the chauffeur approached with a worried expression. "Mr. Thompson, you have a visitor waiting in the main house. Mrs. Sarah." Jack stopped in his tracks. "My ex-wife is here?" "She arrived an hour ago, sir. She says it's urgent." On the porch of the elegant colonial house, Sarah Thompson Alcazar, she had gone back to using her maiden name after the divorce, waited with the impatience characteristic of someone used to the world, adapting to her schedule. Upon seeing Jack approach, her expression turned into a mixture of reproach and condescension. "What were you thinking, Jack?" she blurted out without preamble. "Victoria called me last night. 100,000 for a practically useless horse? Have you completely lost your mind?" "Good morning to you too, Sarah," he responded calmly. "I didn't know my investment decisions were still of interest to you." "Please, this isn't an investment, it's a scandal. People are talking, Jack. They're saying you're having a midlife crisis, that you've lost touch with reality." "People always talk," he interrupted, "but I'm surprised that after 5 years you still care so much about what I do with my life." Sarah blushed slightly. "I care about the reputation of our social class. Besides," her voice softened, "I've always worried about you, Jack. Since we separated, you've become different, more distant, more myself," he completed with an ironic smile. From the stables came the sound of Lightning neighing, as if wanting to remind them of his presence. Sarah looked in that direction and frowned upon seeing Emma working. "And who is she? Victoria mentioned that you seemed very interested in the opinion of a certain veterinarian." "Emma is a highly qualified professional who knows Lightning better than anyone," Jack responded firmly. "And if you'll excuse me, I have matters to attend to." "Jack," Sarah grabbed his arm before he could walk away, "just be careful. William Herrera was asking questions about you at the club this morning. You know that when he shows interest in something. Are you worried about me or coming to gather information for your social circle?" Jack asked, gently freeing his arm. Sarah stepped back, hurt. "Maybe both. After all, we were happy once, weren't we?" "Yes, we were," Jack conceded. "But people change, Sarah, and sometimes that change is exactly what we need." As Sarah drove away in her luxury car, Jack returned to the stables. He found Emma performing a preliminary evaluation of Lightning, her expert hands gently examining the horse's legs. "The tension in the tendon is concerning," she commented without looking up. "But with proper treatment and patience, we'll have both," Jack assured. all the time and resources necessary. Emma finally looked at him. It must have been difficult. Your ex-wife. Life is full of decisions, Emma. Some take us away from what we thought we wanted, and others... He caressed Lightning's neck, who responded with a soft snort. Bring us closer to what we really need. The morning sun was already high in the sky, bathing the stables with a golden light that seemed to promise a new beginning. For everyone. Dr. Michael Mitchell's arrival at Sunrise Ranch was like a breath of fresh, invigorating air. With over 30 years of experience in equine medicine, his presence commanded immediate respect. Emma watched him with admiration as he meticulously examined Lightning. Fascinating, murmured the veteran professional, gently palpating the damaged tendon. The injury is complex, but there's something more here. This horse has an extraordinary will. Jack, who was observing from a prudent distance, noticed how Lightning remained perfectly still during the examination, as if understanding the importance of the moment. Dr. Mitchell, Emma intervened timidly, I've been following your publications on regenerative therapies in high-performance horses. Do you think we could... Miss Sanders, the doctor interrupted with a kind smile, I've read your notes on the preliminary treatment you've been applying. They're impressively detailed, and yes, I was thinking exactly in that direction. Emma's face lit up with professional recognition, while the doctor turned to Jack. Mr. Thompson, we'll be completely honest. The rehabilitation will be long and costly. We'll need specialized equipment, advanced therapies, and above all, time, a lot of time. Time and resources are not a problem, Jack responded firmly. I just need to know if there's real hope for recovery. Dr. Mitchell examined Lightning. Again, this time his eyes shining with the enthusiasm of a scientist faced with a fascinating challenge. There's something special about this horse, he finally declared. His muscular structure, despite the current deterioration, shows extraordinary potential. With the right treatment, he could not only recover, he could become exceptional again. At that moment, Martha appeared at the entrance of the stable. Mr. Thompson, you have an urgent call at the house. It's Mr. Herrera. Jack frowned. William? How strange. Doctor, please continue with the evaluation. I trust your judgment completely. In his office, Jack took the call with some apprehension. William Herrera's voice sounded unusually friendly. Jack, my friend, I've been thinking about our encounter yesterday. I want to make you a business proposal. I'm listening, Jack responded cautiously. I'll triple what you paid for the horse, William declared, without beating around the bush. It's more than a generous offer, considering its current state. He's not for sale, William. Come on, Jack, be reasonable. We both know that animal has a complicated history. Let me take that problem off your hands. Why so much interest in a horse that everyone considered worthless just 24 hours ago? Jack asked, his suspicion increasing. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I'm just trying to help an old friend avoid a potentially embarrassing situation. There are certain rumors about the accident at the National Grand Prix that could resurface. Is that a threat, William? Of course not. Simply friendly advice. Think about it, Jack. My offer stands for 48 hours. The call ended, leaving Jack with a feeling of unease. When he returned to the stables, he found Dr. Mitchell and Emma animatedly discussing the treatment plan. We'll start with shockwave therapy to stimulate tissue regeneration, the doctor was explaining. In parallel, we'll implement a specialized nutritional protocol and... He interrupted himself upon noticing Jack's worried expression. Is something wrong, Mr. Thompson? Emma asked. Emma? Jack looked at her intently. I need you to tell me everything you know about your brother's accident. Every detail, no matter how insignificant it may seem. The young veterinarian paled slightly. There are things I haven't even told my family. I understand. Dr. Mitchell, could you give us a moment? Once alone, Emma began to speak in a low voice, as if fearing the walls might hear. The night before the Grand Prix, my brother received a visitor in the stables. He didn't tell me who it was, but after that conversation he was upset, worried. He told me there were powerful people who didn't want Lightning to compete. Why? The bets, Emma responded, her voice trembling slightly. Lightning was the undisputed favorite. His victory would have meant millionaire losses for certain interests. And the accident? Anthony never wanted to talk about the details. He only said that during the race, something scared Lightning, something that shouldn't have been there. Jack processed the information in silence while observing Lightning through the stable door. The horse seemed more vital already, as if Dr. Mitchell's presence and the prospect of recovery had ignited a spark in him. "Emma," he said finally, "do you trust me?" "Yes," she responded without hesitation. "I don't know why, but I do." "Good, because I have the feeling we're going to need to trust each other a lot in the coming days. There are forces moving in the shadows, and I believe Lightning's recovery is just the beginning of something much bigger." A soft neigh from the horse seemed to confirm his words, as the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the stables, as if foreshadowing the challenges that were to come. 3 weeks had passed since the start of the treatment, and the first rays of sun found Emma already working in the stables of Sunrise Ranch. The change in Lightning was subtle but undeniable. His coat was beginning to regain its shine, and his eyes showed increasing vivacity. "Good morning, champion," she whispered as she brushed his coat with soft, methodical movements. "Today is an important day. Are you ready?" Dr. Mitchell had scheduled the first complete progress evaluation, and tension could be felt in the air. Jack appeared early, dressed casually but elegantly, with a cup of coffee in hand. "I brought you one too," he said, offering a second cup to Emma. "Looks like you need it." She accepted the coffee with a grateful smile. The last few weeks had created a comfortable routine between them, blurring the initial social barriers. "I barely slept last night," she confessed. "I'm nervous about the evaluation." "Dr. Mitchell was impressed with your dedication," Jack commented. Observing how Lightning responded positively to Emma's care, he says he's never seen someone so committed to an animal's recovery. "It's more than professional commitment," she replied, her eyes shining with contained emotion. "Lightning represents a second chance for all of us." The sound of an approaching car interrupted the conversation. However, it wasn't Dr. Mitchell arriving, but Victoria, Jack's ex-sister-in-law, accompanied by a serious-looking man carrying a briefcase. "Jack, darling," Victoria exclaimed with false cheer, "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Victoria," Jack replied cautiously, "I wasn't expecting to see you here." "Oh, I was just passing by to introduce you to someone. Attorney James Mendoza, legal representative of the International Equestrian Club." The man stepped forward, his expression professionally neutral. "Mr. Thompson," the lawyer began, "we've received a formal request questioning the legitimacy of your acquisition at the last auction. There are irregularities that need to be investigated." Emma visibly tensed, but Jack maintained his calm. "What kind of irregularities?" "The documentation presented during the auction seems to have discrepancies," Mendoza explained, extracting several papers from his briefcase. "The specimen's origin, its medical history, previous ownership records, everything was in order during the auction," Emma intervened, her voice trembling slightly. "I personally reviewed the documentation." Victoria looked at her with disdain. "Dear, this is a complex legal matter. Perhaps you should focus on, well, whatever it is you do here. Miss Sanders is an integral part of the team," Jack responded firmly, "and she has every right to be present in this discussion." At that moment, Lightning neighed loudly, as if wanting to show his support. Victoria gave a small jump, instinctively, moving away from the stable. "The Equestrian Club," the lawyer continued, regaining attention, "has the obligation to investigate any formal claim about its transactions. Until this matter is resolved, I'm afraid the specimen will have to remain under neutral custody." "That's absurd," Jack protested. "Lightning is in the middle of a critical treatment. Moving him now could compromise his entire recovery." "The regulations are clear, Mr. Thompson," Mendoza insisted. "We have a temporary order that—" "I have a better idea," Jack interrupted. "Why don't we wait for my legal team to arrive? They should be here in—" He checked his watch. "About 20 minutes. Victoria paled slightly. "You've already called. Them?" "Of course," Jack smiled. "After your visit 3 weeks ago, Sarah, I knew this wouldn't end there, so I took some legal precautions." Dr. Mitchell chose that moment to make his appearance, his imposing presence drawing all eyes. "Good morning," he greeted, assessing the situation with experienced eyes. Am I interrupting something? Not at all, Doctor, Jack responded. In fact, Attorney Mendoza and Mrs. Victoria were just leaving. They have some matters to review with their superiors before proceeding. The lawyer hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. We'll be in touch, Mr. Thompson. When Victoria's car drove away, Emma let out a shaky sigh. This isn't over, is it? No, Jack confirmed. In fact, I think it's just beginning, but now, he turned to Dr. Mitchell, we have an important evaluation to perform. The veterinarian nodded, taking out his instruments. And I have excellent preliminary news. The latest blood tests show significant improvement in... Mr. Thompson! Martha's urgent voice interrupted from the entrance. You have a call from Spain. It's Miss Sanders' brother. Emma froze, her eyes widening in surprise. Anthony, but he never... I think, Jack said softly, it's time for some truths to come to light. The sun was already high in the sky, promising. A day full of revelations and perhaps some long-awaited answers. Jack's office had become a sanctuary of contained tension. Anthony Sanders' voice, clear but charged with emotion, resonated through the phone's speaker. Emma, sitting on the edge of her chair, drank in every word from her brother, as if they were drops of water in the desert. When I saw the news on social media, Anthony explained, about the purchase of Lightning by Jack Thompson, I couldn't believe it. I thought that chapter of my life was closed forever. Anthony, Jack intervened gently, we need to understand what really happened that day at the National Grand Prix. There are people trying to contest Lightning's purchase. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When Anthony spoke again, his voice trembled slightly. The night before the race, William Herrera came to see me in the stables. He offered me an obscene amount of money to make sure Lightning didn't win. I refused, of course. But then he started talking about Emma, about her future in veterinary. Medicine! They used me as a threat, Emma whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. You were my weak spot, sis. Everyone knew it. Even so, I stood firm. But during the race, someone had placed an ultrasound device near the track. The sound, imperceptible to humans, drove Lightning crazy. Jack leaned forward. Do you have proof of this? I have something. Better, Anthony replied. I have a recording. The night of the threat, I activated my phone's recorder. I never used it because I was afraid, but I kept it as a life insurance. And now you're willing to share it? Jack asked. I'm sending it to your email right now. I'm tired of living with this weight, of seeing how Lightning and my sister paid the price for my silence. While this conversation was unfolding, Dr. Mitchell continued with his evaluation in the stables. Upon finishing, his face showed a mixture of amazement and professional satisfaction. It's extraordinary, he exclaimed when Jack and Emma returned. The response to the treatment exceeds all expectations. The tendon inflammation has decreased significantly, the blood values are improving, and his muscle mass is beginning to recover. Emma approached Lightning, who responded with a soft snort of recognition. Does that mean... It means, the doctor continued with a smile, that we can begin the next phase of treatment. Light exercises, hydrotherapy, and if everything continues like this, in a few months we could think about returning to the tracks, a voice from the entrance completed. Martha appeared with a worried expression. Mr. Thompson, excuse the interruption, but this just arrived. She extended an official envelope. Jack opened it calmly. His eyes quickly scanned the document, and a small smile formed on his lips. It seems William has gotten ahead of us, he commented. He's filed a formal lawsuit for Lightning's ownership, claiming he has documents proving the horse belongs to him. That's impossible, Emma exclaimed. The original papers are safe, Jack reassured her. But the most interesting thing is the moment he chose to do this, just when Lightning is beginning to show clear signs of recovery. Dr. Mitchell, who had been listening attentively, intervened. In my 30 years of practice, I've learned that horses like Lightning are more than just animals. They're symbols of something greater, and that's why they awaken both the best and worst passions in people. Jack nodded, approaching Lightning. The horse looked at him with those deep eyes that had captivated him from the first moment. Doctor, he said without taking his gaze off the animal, how long do you need to document in detail the progress of the treatment so far? I have all the data analyses and photographs. I can have a complete report in 24 hours. Perfect. Emma, I need you to contact your brother again. It's time to counterattack. What do you plan to do? She asked. William wants to play with legal documents and veiled threats, but we have something more powerful. The truth. And now he smiled as he took out his phone to check Anthony's email. We have the evidence to back it up. A strong and clear neigh from Lightning seemed to seal the moment. The afternoon sun entered through the stable windows, illuminating the scene as if nature itself wanted to witness this new phase in their story of redemption. By the way, added Dr. Mitchell with an enigmatic smile, there's something else you should see in the analysis results. Something that could change the entire panorama. Dr. Mitchell spread the X-rays on the desk in Jack's office, while Emma held her breath. The afternoon light streamed through the large windows, illuminating the images that were about to change everything. What we're seeing here, the doctor began, pointing to a specific area, is absolutely extraordinary. Lightning's bone structure shows characteristics that I've only seen once in my career. It's an extremely rare genetic variation that gives him a unique capacity for muscle recovery and endurance. What does that mean exactly? Jack asked, leaning in to observe better. It means, Emma intervened, her eyes shining with understanding, that Lightning not only can recover, he could become stronger than before. The doctor nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. This genetic variation is the reason why he has responded so extraordinarily well to the treatment. It's as if his body was programmed for excellence. In all my years of practice, I only saw something similar in one horse, his father. His father? Jack straightened up, suddenly alert. Are you sure? Completely. Thunderbolt, the Argentine stallion that caused a sensation a decade ago. I had the privilege of treating him in Buenos Aires. The same structure, the same unique characteristics. Emma brought her hands to her mouth. Thunderbolt. Of course. That's why William is so interested. It's not just about Lightning. It's about his potential as a stud. At that moment, Martha hurriedly entered the office. Mr. Thompson, Miss Sarah is here. She says it's urgent. Sarah appeared in the doorway, her usual composure slightly altered. Jack, we need to talk in private. Jack looked at the others, who understood the signal and discreetly withdrew. Once alone, Sarah sank into a chair. I just found out something disturbing, she began. William isn't acting alone. There's an international consortium behind him, interested in acquiring superior genetic lines for a new breeding project in Dubai. How do you know this? Jack asked, carefully studying his ex-wife. Victoria can be very indiscreet after 3 glasses of champagne, Sarah smiled humorlessly. Jack, they're willing to go very far to get Lightning. The accident 2 years. It wasn't the first attempt to control this genetic line. Jack stood up and walked to the window, observing the stables where Lightning rested. Why are you telling me this, Sarah? Because, her voice softened, despite everything, I know you. I saw your look when you bought that horse. It's the same look you had when you started your first business, when you defended what you believed was right. And she hesitated for a moment. I miss that version of you. The version that didn't care about social appearances, he asked with an ironic smile. The version that fought for his dreams, she corrected. Besides, I always hated William. He's an ambitious hypocrite. At that moment, Robert, the chauffeur, appeared at the door. Excuse me, Mr. Thompson, but this just arrived by urgent courier. He handed over a thick envelope. Jack opened it and examined its contents. His eyes widened slightly. These are the original records of Thunderbolt and a letter from his former owner in Argentina. Sarah approached with curiosity. How did you get them? Anthony, Jack replied. Emma's brother must have contacted his former colleagues in Buenos Aires. He paused as he read something particularly interesting. This is revealing. What is it? According to these documents, there was an attempt at a hostile takeover of Thunderbolt years ago. The buyer used the same methods that William is using now. Legal pressure, questionable documents, veiled threats. The same buyer? Not directly, but... Jack continued reading. There are connections, references to the same shell companies, the same patterns. Sarah walked to the window, observing the sunset. What are you going to do? What I should have done a long time ago, Jack responded, taking his phone. "Martha, please call an urgent meeting. I want the whole team here in an hour. Dr. Mitchell, Emma, our lawyers, and call Anthony in Spain. It's time for everyone to know the true story." "Can I stay?" Sarah asked softly. Jack looked at her for a long time, remembering the years shared, the battles won and lost. "Yes," he finally responded. "I think it's important that you witness what's about to happen." As the sun set over Sunrise Ranch, casting long shadows across the gardens, Lightning neighed from his stable, as if sensing that the moment of truth had finally arrived. The library at Sunrise Ranch had never hosted such a peculiar meeting. Gathered around the ancient oak table were Jack, Sarah, Emma, Dr. Mitchell, and two distinguished lawyers. Anthony's voice resonated from Spain through a laptop speaker, while Martha served coffee for everyone. "The documents I sent," Anthony explained, "reveal a systematic pattern. The same corporation, operating under different names, has been trying to control the most valuable genetic lines in the equestrian world for years. Global Equine Ventures," Jack read from the document in front of him, "a subsidiary of Desert Crown International based in Dubai." "Exactly," Anthony confirmed. 10 years ago, they tried to acquire Thunderbolt in Argentina. When the owner refused to sell, the pressures began. Falsified documents, legal demands, mysterious accidents during training. Emma leaned forward. "Like what's happening to us now?" "With one crucial difference," Sarah intervened, surprising everyone. "This time they were careless. Victoria told me more than she should have about William's connections with foreign investors." Dr. Mitchell, who had been reviewing the results of his analyses, looked up. "And now we have scientific proof of Lightning's real value. His genetic profile is practically identical to Thunderbolt's. In breeding terms, he's literally priceless." "What I don't understand," Emma said, "is why they waited so long. Why didn't they try to acquire him before?" The answer came from Anthony. "Because they needed it to look like a legitimate transaction. A seemingly worthless horse, bought at a public auction. It was the perfect cover to later discover his true potential. And when I bought him," Jack completed, "I ruined their plans." One of the lawyers, Mr. Torres, cleared his throat. "With the evidence we have, the recording of the threat to Anthony, the original documents from Argentina, the testimonies about the pressures prior to the accident, we can file a solid countersuit." "Not only that," added his colleague, Ms. Mendoza, "we can expose the entire scheme of Global Equine Ventures. I have contacts in the specialized press who would be very interested in this story." Jack stood up and walked to the window. From there he could see the stables where Lightning rested. "No," he said finally, "we're not going to counterattack directly." "What?" The surprise was general. "We're going to do something better." A cunning smile formed on his face. "We're going to give them exactly what they want, but on our terms." Sarah looked at him curiously. "I know that expression. You have a plan." "Dr. Mitchell," Jack turned to the veterinarian, "how long do you need to have Lightning in condition to make a public demonstration?" "With the current progress, 3 weeks, but it must be something controlled, nothing too demanding." "Perfect. Emma, do you trust me?" The young veterinarian nodded without hesitation. "Completely." "Good, because we'll need your help. And Anthony's for this. We're going to organize a special event at Sunrise Ranch, a private exhibition for select breeders." "You want to publicly show Lightning?" Sarah asked, surprised. "Isn't that risky?" "On the contrary," Jack smiled. "It's precisely what we need. Mr. Torres, I want you to discreetly leak information about the event to Global Equine Ventures. Let them know we'll be showing Lightning to potential buyers." "They'll come with everything," Anthony warned from the speaker. "I'm counting on it," Jack responded, "because while they're focused on the public event, we'll be executing the real plan." He approached his desk and extracted a folder that no one had seen before. 3 weeks ago, immediately. After buying Lightning, I initiated conversations with the International Equestrian Federation. I proposed a revolutionary project, a center for recovery and preservation of endangered genetic lines. Emma's eyes lit up with understanding. "A sanctuary." "Exactly. a place where horses like Lightning can not only recover but also preserve their genetic legacy under international protection. The Federation is enthusiastic about the idea. They were just waiting for a proof of concept. And Lightning will be that proof, Dr. Mitchell completed, nodding with approval. When Global Equine Ventures and William show up at the event, Jack continued, they won't just find a recovered Lightning, but representatives from the International Federation and the specialized press. Any attempt at pressure or manipulation will be exposed before the eyes of the equestrian world. Sarah stood up and approached her ex-husband. It's brilliant, she admitted, but also dangerous. You're risking a lot. No, Jack corrected gently. We're protecting something valuable, not just Lightning, but a principle. The sun was beginning to set, bathing the library in a golden light. In the stables, Lightning neighed, as if approving the plan that would determine not only his future, but that of many others after him. The next 2 weeks at Sunrise Ranch were a whirlwind of activity. Dr. Mitchell had designed a meticulous training program for Lightning, combining gentle exercises with strategically planned rest periods. Emma practically lived in the stables, supervising every detail of his recovery. His response to the treatment is extraordinary, the doctor commented while conducting his morning checkup. The superior genetics are evident, but there's something more. It's as if he understands the importance of what we're doing. Jack, who was observing the training from the paddock fence, noticed how Lightning's bearing had changed. The horse no longer showed signs of his previous decline. His head was held high, his eyes shining with determination. The representatives from the International Federation confirmed their attendance, Martha informed, approaching with a tablet. And the invitations for the event have been strategically distributed. Any response from Global Equine Ventures? Jack asked. Indirectly. Victoria called this morning, asking if she could bring some international friends to the event. Jack smiled. Perfect. Everything is going according to plan. However, the apparent calm was interrupted that same afternoon. One of the workers came running, visibly upset. Mr. Thompson, Miss Sanders, you need to come. It's the water in the stables. In the water supply area, a penetrating chemical smell floated in the air. Emma, after a quick inspection, paled. Someone tried to contaminate the supply, she declared, showing traces of a strange powder near the tanks. If we hadn't detected it in time, take samples, Jack ordered with studied calm, and call Dr. Mitchell. We need to document this. Sarah, who had been supervising the event preparations, hurried over. Jack, I just found out. Is everyone okay? Luckily, we discovered it in time, he responded, watching as Emma and the security staff collected evidence. They're desperate. This is more serious than we thought, Sarah murmured. Victoria told me that William has been having private meetings with representatives from Dubai. Apparently, there's a lot of money at stake. At that moment, Jack's phone rang. It was Anthony from Spain. Jack, I have important news. I've been investigating more about Global Equine Ventures. They're not just after superior genetic lines. They're developing a controlled breeding program. They want to monopolize the elite horse market. And Lightning is the missing piece, Jack completed. Exactly. With his unique genetics, they could control the next generation of competition horses. It's a multi-million-dollar business. While this conversation was taking place, Emma was working with Lightning in the indoor arena. The horse was executing increasingly complex movements with a grace that left observers breathless. It's incredible, Dr. Mitchell commented, timing the exercises. His recovery isn't just complete. He's surpassing his previous performance levels. Jack joined them, observing the training session. Will he be ready for the event? More than ready, the doctor assured. But Jack, have you considered that they might try something during the demonstration? We've considered everything, Jack responded, taking out his phone to show some documents. While they've been planning their sabotages, we've been working on this. The plans on his screen showed an elaborate project. Modern facilities, rehabilitation areas, genetic research laboratories. The International Center for Equine Recovery and Preservation, he explained. It's already approved by the International Federation. They're just waiting to see the results with Lightning to make the official announcement. Emma, who had approached to listen, held her breath. It's bigger than I imagined. Because it's not just about lightning, Jack smiled. It's about changing the entire system. Creating a place where a horse's value isn't measured in money, but in its capacity for recovery and improvement. A powerful neigh from lightning seemed to underscore his words. The afternoon sun streamed through the arena windows, creating an almost mystical effect around the animal. "Mr. Thompson," Martha interrupted, appearing at the entrance. "Mr. Torres is on the phone. He says he has urgent information about William Herrera and a meeting scheduled for tonight." Jack exchanged looks with Sarah and Emma. "The endgame is beginning," he murmured, "and I have a feeling it will be more intense than we expected." Night was falling over the exclusive International Equestrian Club of Houston, but the lights in the private room on the second floor were still on. Inside, William Herrera was meeting with a select group of people, including Victoria and 3 serious-looking executives who had arrived that very afternoon from Dubai. "The event at sunrise. Ranch is our last chance," William explained, spreading recent photographs of lightning on the mahogany table. "As you can see, the horse has recovered in an extraordinary manner." "More than extraordinary," commented one of the executives, Mr. Al-Rahman, studying the images with an expert eye. "This recovery confirms our suspicions about his genetic value." Victoria, elegant as always but with a calculating gleam in her eyes, leaned forward. "Jack has invited the specialized press and representatives from the International Federation. He's planning something big." "Our informants suggest a genetic preservation project," added another executive. "If the International Federation gets involved, we won't reach that point," William interrupted firmly. "We have this." He placed a legal document with official seals on the table. "A preliminary court order questioning the legitimacy of the purchase. We'll present it during the event." "In public?" Victoria raised an eyebrow. "That could be counterproductive." "On the contrary," William smiled. "Jack will have to choose. Either he cancels the demonstration, ruining his credibility with the Federation, or he proceeds and risks legal intervention that will freeze any decision about Lightning's future." While this meeting was taking place, at Sunrise Ranch the atmosphere was one of concentrated activity. Emma was performing a final nighttime check on Lightning, marveling at his transformation. "It's as if you were a completely different horse," she whispered, caressing his shiny neck. "And yet your eyes still have the same nobility I saw on the first day." Jack appeared at the stable entrance, accompanied by Dr. Mitchell and Sarah. "The final analyses are more than positive," the doctor reported, showing the results on his tablet. "His current physical condition surpasses even the records of his best moment before the accident." "And the representatives from the International Federation have just confirmed their arrival for early tomorrow," Sarah added. "They want to review the facilities before the event." Jack nodded, approaching Lightning. The horse greeted him with a soft snort of recognition. "Martha intercepted an interesting call," he commented. "It seems William is planning some kind of legal intervention during the demonstration." "Should we be worried?" Emma asked. "On the contrary," Jack smiled. "It's exactly what we expected." At that moment, Anthony called from Spain. His voice sounded urgent through the speaker. "Jack, I just received crucial information from my contacts in Argentina. I've been investigating more about the accident of Thunderbolt, Lightning's father. It wasn't a coincidence. It was Global Equine Ventures' first attempt to control this genetic line." "Do you have proof?" Jack asked. "Better than that. I have the former head groom who witnessed everything. He's willing to testify via video conference during the event. It's all coordinated with the International Federation." Sarah, who had been checking her phone, looked up with concern. "Victoria just posted on her social media. She's at the Equestrian Club with important guests from Dubai." "Perfect," Jack responded. "That confirms all the players will be present tomorrow." He turned to Dr. Mitchell. "Is everything ready for the special demonstration?" The doctor nodded with a conspiratorial smile. "Lightning is at his best. What we have prepared will leave everyone speechless." Emma, who had been listening in silence, approached Jack. "There's something I don't understand. Why don't you seem worried about their plans?" Jack looked at her with a mixture of determination and serenity. "Because, Emma, while they've been planning how to win a legal battle, we've been preparing to change the entire game." He approached a whiteboard where the plans for the future recovery center were displayed. Tomorrow won't just be a demonstration of Lightning's recovery. It will be the beginning of a new era in the equestrian world. A powerful neigh from Lightning echoed through the stables, as if the noble animal understood the importance of the moment that was approaching. The full moon rose over the ranch, bathing everything in a silvery light that seemed to presage great events. "Everyone get some rest," Jack ordered. "Tomorrow will be a day no one will forget." As the team withdrew, Sarah lingered behind. "Jack," she called softly, "do you really believe we can change an entire system that has worked this way for decades?" Jack looked at Lightning one last time before answering. "It's not about whether we can, Sarah. It's about the fact that we must try. For every Lightning waiting for a second chance." The dawn of the big day arrived with exceptional clarity. Sunrise Ranch gleamed under the first rays of sun, its facilities impeccably prepared for the event. Flags of the International Equestrian Federation waved alongside elegant banners announcing the future International Recovery Center. Jack, dressed in an impeccable suit, was overseeing the final details when the first group of visitors began to arrive. The representatives of the International Federation, led by the prestigious Dr. Elena Vasquez. "Mr. Thompson," Dr. Vasquez greeted a woman of imposing presence and sharp gaze. "I must admit we're intrigued. Your proposal for the recovery center is ambitious." "Sometimes, Doctor," Jack responded as he guided her towards the facilities. "The biggest ambitions are born from the simplest stories." In the stables, Emma and Dr. Mitchell were making the final preparations with Lightning. The horse seemed to sense the importance of the moment. His bearing was majestic, his gaze attentive and determined. "It's incredible," the doctor commented, reviewing the latest vital data. "His indicators are perfect, better than perfect." Luxury cars continued to arrive. Victoria made her entrance accompanied by the executives from Dubai, while William arrived shortly after, with a group of lawyers. The tension in the atmosphere was palpable. "Jack," Sarah approached discreetly, "the journalists from the specialized magazines have just arrived. And there are international television cameras." "Excellent," he smiled. "Is everything ready for the video conference with Anthony and the witness from Argentina? All set up in the projection room. Martha is supervising the final technical details." The first part of the event began with a tour of the facilities. Dr. Vasquez and her team listened attentively as Jack explained his vision for the recovery center. "We won't just rehabilitate horses," he explained, "but we'll also preserve and study valuable genetic lines. Imagine a place where every horse has a second chance, where value isn't measured in prizes won, but in recovery potential." "It sounds idealistic," one of the Dubai executives commented skeptically. "Great changes always begin with ideals," Jack responded. "But we have more than ideals. We have proof." The group arrived at the main arena, where Lightning was waiting alongside Emma. The murmurs of amazement were immediate. The change in the animal was spectacular. "Is this the same horse from the auction?" someone in the audience asked. "Impossible," Victoria murmured, but her voice trembled with uncertainty. William, who had been observing everything with a tense expression, signaled to one of his lawyers. The man stepped forward holding a document. "Mr. Thompson," he began in a formal voice, "I have a court order that questions the legitimacy of your ownership of this animal until this matter is legally resolved." "We were expecting this," Jack interrupted calmly. He turned to Dr. Vasquez. "Doctor, could we move forward with the special presentation?" The doctor nodded and the giant screens installed in the arena came to life. Anthony's face appeared on one of them, alongside an older man whom those present didn't recognize. "Let me introduce Jorge Mendes," Anthony announced, former head groom of the San Lorenzo stables in Argentina. "He has a story to tell about Thunderbolt and about a certain corporation that tried to acquire him years ago." The Dubai executives visibly tensed. William stepped forward, but Jack raised a hand. "Before we hear his testimony," he said in a clear voice, "I think it's time to show you why we're all really here." He turned to Emma. "Is he ready?" Emma nodded, her eyes shining with contained emotion. "More than ready." Lightning entered the center of the arena. his magnetic presence capturing the attention of all those present. What was about to happen would forever change not only his destiny, but the future of the equestrian world. The silence in the arena was absolute as Lightning took his position in the center. Emma, with quiet confidence, gave the first signal. What happened next left everyone present breathless. The horse began a series of movements that combined classical elegance with extraordinary power. Each step, each turn, each transition flowed with a grace that seemed to defy the laws of physics. There was no trace of the old injury. Instead, there was a strength and precision that surpassed even his best performances from the past. "Incredible," Dr. Vasquez murmured, taking notes frenetically. "The recovery is complete." "No, it's superior." Dr. Mitchell stepped forward, activating the screens that showed real-time medical data. "Observe the biometric indicators," he pointed out. "The muscular efficiency, lung capacity, movement patterns. Everything is at exceptional levels." While Lightning continued his demonstration, the voice of Jorge Mendez, the former Argentine groom, resonated through the screens. 10 years ago, when Thunderbolt showed these same extraordinary characteristics, we received the first visit from Global Equine Ventures. At first, they seemed interested in a normal purchase, but when we refused— "I object," one of Williams' lawyers interrupted. "This has no relevance to the current case." "On the contrary," Jack intervened, "it has all the relevance." He turned to the representatives of the International Federation. "What you're witnessing is not just the recovery of a horse. It's living proof of a systematic conspiracy to control the most valuable genetic lines in the equestrian world." Victoria, who had been watching with growing unease, tried to stand up. "This is ridiculous. You can't—" "Can't what, Victoria?" Sarah's voice rang out clear and firm. "Can't expose the truth, the sabotage attempts, the threats?" Jorge's testimony continued. "After our refusal, the accidents began. Missing documents, mysterious injuries, the same pattern that was repeated years later with Lightning." Emma guided Lightning through a final series of movements that culminated in a perfect demonstration of control and power. The applause was instantaneous and enthusiastic. "Dr. Vasquez," Jack addressed the Federation representative, "what you see here today is not just a recovered horse. It's proof that with proper care, the right dedication, and a noble purpose, we can achieve the impossible." The doctor nodded, her expression serious but determined. "Mr. Thompson, your proposal for the International Recovery Center had already captured our interest. But this—" she gestured towards Lightning, who now rested calmly next to Emma. "This is the evidence we needed." The Dubai executives began to murmur among themselves, clearly uneasy. William stepped forward, his facade of control beginning to crumble. "This is a farce. I have documents that prove—" "These documents," Anthony interrupted from the screen, showing a set of papers. "The same ones they tried to use in Argentina. We have the originals here with dates and signatures that prove the forgery." Dr. Vasquez stood up. "Mr. Herrera, representatives of Global Equine Ventures, on behalf of the International Equestrian Federation, I must inform you that we will initiate a formal investigation into your activities in the sector." Jack raised a hand, requesting attention. "We're not seeking revenge," he declared. "What we propose is a paradigm shift. The International Recovery Center will be a space where a horse's value is not measured in monetary terms, but in its capacity for improvement and its contribution to the future of the species." Lightning softly neighed, as if supporting Jack's words. Emma approached him, her eyes bright with emotion. "And to demonstrate our commitment," Jack continued, "I officially announce that Lightning will be the first resident stallion of the center. His exceptional genetics will not be the property of any corporation, but a legacy for the entire international equestrian community." The journalists present began taking notes frantically. The cameras didn't stop recording. Dr. Vasquez approached, Jack with a smile. "Mr. Thompson, I believe you've just initiated a revolution in the equestrian world." As the events unfolded, Sarah discreetly approached Jack. "You know, I think I finally understand why you bought Lightning that day." Jack observed the magnificent animal that had changed not only his life but the future of many others. "Sometimes," he responded softly, the most important decisions are not made with the head, but with the heart. The afternoon after the event, Sunrise Ranch vibrated with a different energy. The headlines in specialized magazines and digital media left no room for doubt. The equestrian world had changed forever. Revolution in the equestrian world, the miracle of lightning, read one of the main international portals. In Jack's office, Dr. Vasquez reviewed the final details of the agreement with the International Federation. "The board of directors is impressed," she commented while signing the documents. "Not just by lightning's recovery, but by the entire vision of the project. The idea of a center that combines rehabilitation, research, and genetic preservation is revolutionary." Jack watched through the window as Emma worked with lightning in the arena. "When can we start with the expansion?" "The international funds will be available in 2 weeks," the doctor replied. "But most importantly, we already have requests from several countries interested in sending specimens for rehabilitation." Anthony, who was still connected by video from Spain, intervened. "And it's not just rehabilitation requests. Several important breeders want to donate genetic material for the preservation bank." At that moment, Sarah entered the office with more news. Global Equine Ventures is in free fall. Their stocks plummeted after the revelations. William and Victoria have disappeared from public life. "This isn't about revenge," Jack reminded. "It's about changing the system." Dr. Vasquez nodded approvingly. "And speaking of changes, have you seen social media? Lightning's story has gone viral. They're calling him the horse that changed the rules." Martha entered with a tray of coffee and a smile. "Mr. Thompson, the first job applications for the center have arrived. Veterinarians, researchers, rehabilitation specialists, everyone wants to be part of this." In the arena, Emma was guiding Lightning through gentle exercises. Dr. Mitchell approached her, holding his tablet with the latest results. "His indicators keep improving," the veteran professional commented. "It's as if he gets stronger every day. And the most interesting thing is that we're discovering new aspects of his unique genetics." "It's more than genetics," Emma replied, caressing Lightning's neck. "It's spirit, something that can't be measured in a laboratory." Jack joined them, followed by Dr. Vasquez and Sarah. The afternoon sun bathed the arena in a golden light, creating an almost magical moment. "You know," Jack reflected, "when I bought Lightning at that auction, everyone thought it was madness. Hive and I had doubts, but there was something in his eyes." "The same look he has now," Sarah completed, observing the majestic animal. "A look that says nothing is impossible." Dr. Vasquez checked her watch. "The team of architects will arrive tomorrow to begin designing the new facilities. Any special requests?" "Yes," Jack responded. "I want every space, every detail, to reflect our commitment to second chances. I want any animal that comes here to feel that it's in a place of hope." Emma, who had been listening, approached with Lightning. "I think he already feels that way, don't you, champion?" The horse neighed softly, as if affirming her words. At that moment, Dr. Mitchell received a notification on his tablet that made him smile broadly. "The results of the latest genetic study just arrived," he announced, "and there's something extraordinary that you have to see." The sun was beginning to set over the ranch, marking the end of a historic day and the beginning of a new era. In the stables, other horses neighed softly, as if sensing that the future ahead was brighter than ever. A month had passed since the event that changed everything. Sunrise Ranch had transformed into a bustling center of activity. Cranes and construction equipment worked on the new facilities, while a constant flow of specialists and visitors filled the existing spaces. Jack toured the construction site with the architects, reviewing the progress. The new stables, designed with the most advanced technology in equine welfare, were beginning to take shape. At his side, Emma, now director of the rehabilitation program, explained the details to a group of visiting veterinarians. "Each area is designed with integral recovery in mind," she explained enthusiastically. "From hydrotherapy to progressive exercise spaces, everything follows a concept of natural healing." Dr. Mitchell appeared hurriedly, holding some documents. "Jack, Emma, you have to see this. The latest genetic analyses of Lightning have revealed something extraordinary." They gathered in the provisional laboratory, where screens displayed DNA sequences and complex graphs. Not only have we confirmed the genetic mutation that gives him his exceptional characteristics, the doctor explained, but we've discovered that this trait is highly heritable. The first studies suggest a transmission rate of 85%. What does that mean exactly? Jack asked. It means, Dr. Vasquez intervened, who had just arrived from a meeting with the International Federation, that lightning is not just a symbol of recovery. He's the beginning of a new genetic line that could revolutionize the breeding of sport horses. At that moment, Martha entered with unexpected news. "Mr. Thompson, you have a visitor. It's Anthony. He's come from Spain." Indeed, Anthony Sanders, Emma's brother, was waiting in the main office. His physical presence was very different from the video image everyone knew. He looked stronger, more determined. "After seeing everything that's happening here," he began, hugging his sister, "I knew it was time to return. If you'll accept me, I want to be part of this." "Are you sure?" Emma asked, emotional. "I thought you'd never return to the equestrian world. Seeing Lightning's recovery, everything you've achieved, it made me realize that running away wasn't the answer. Besides," he smiled, "I brought something that might interest you." Anthony extracted an old folder from his briefcase. "These are the research diaries of my former mentor in Argentina, Dr. Suarez. He was studying the same genetic mutation you've discovered in Lightning, but in other historical lineages." Dr. Mitchell reviewed the documents with growing excitement. "This is incredible. There are records of similar cases dating back 3 generations. We could trace the origin of this characteristic." Sarah, who had been supervising the planning of the administrative area, joined the group. "There's more news. The main equine universities in the world want to establish joint research programs with the center. And that's not all," added Dr. Vasquez. "The International Federation has decided to establish its main genetic research center here. Sunrise Ranch will be the global headquarters for the study and preservation of exceptional genetic lines." Jack observed everything from the window of his office. In the arena, Lightning was performing gentle exercises with a group of horses that had recently arrived for rehabilitation. His presence seemed to inspire the other animals. "It's fascinating," Dr. Mitchell commented, joining him at the window. "The other horses respond to his presence in a unique way. It's as if he transmits confidence, strength, hope," Jack completed. "He transmits hope." At that moment, one of the researchers rushed into the office. "Dr. Mitchell, the results of the latest group behavior study. You have to see them. There's a pattern of social interaction we've never documented before." As the sun began to set over the ranch, bathing the new constructions in golden light, Jack reflected on how a simple act of faith had triggered such a profound transformation. Beside him, Lightning neighed softly, as if reading his thoughts. "Mr. Thompson," Martha called from the door, "the representatives of the international press have arrived for the special report. And there's something else. They've brought someone who claims to have information about Thunderbolt's origins, something that could complete the story." 6 months after the official inauguration of the International Equine Recovery Center, Sunrise Ranch had transformed into an almost magical place. The new buildings, which combined cutting-edge technology with sustainable design, integrated harmoniously with the natural landscape. In the vast pastures, horses from different parts of the world grazed peacefully, each with its own story of overcoming adversity. It was a special day. The first generation of foals descended from Lightning was about to be presented to the international community. The event had attracted equestrian personalities from all continents. "It's incredible how everything has changed," Emma commented to Jack as they observed the preparations from the main office. "And to think it all began with an impulsive decision at an auction." "It wasn't impulsive," Jack corrected with a smile. "It was the heart recognizing something that the mind didn't yet understand." Dr. Mitchell entered with the latest genetic reports. "The results are extraordinary. Lightning's special characteristic hasn't only been transmitted to his offspring, but in some cases, it has been enhanced. These foals show indicators of resistance and recovery never before seen." Sarah, who now directed the center's international relations program, joined the conversation. "The waiting list for the breeding program already exceeds 2 years, and it's not just commercial breeders. Research institutions from around the world want to study this phenomenon. At that moment, Anthony appeared with an older woman of distinguished appearance. "Jack, I want to introduce you to someone very special. Dr. Mercedes Gutierrez, former chief researcher at the San Lorenzo stables in Argentina." The woman smiled warmly. "I've waited a long time to share this story," she began. 30 years. Ago, we initiated a secret research project on genetic recovery in horses. Thunderbolt, Lightning's father, was our first great success, but there were powerful forces that wanted to control our discoveries. "Global Equine Ventures," Jack murmured. "Among others," Dr. Gutierrez nodded. "We had to disperse our research, protect the horses, hide documents. But now, seeing what you've built here, I know we're finally in the right place." The doctor extracted an old notebook from her briefcase. "This is the original project diary. It contains everything: the genetic markers, inheritance patterns, recovery techniques, everything you need to understand and enhance what you've already discovered." While this was happening, in the main arena, Lightning was observing his offspring with what seemed to be paternal pride. The foals, heirs to his strength and spirit, showed extraordinary vitality. Dr. Vasquez, who now presided over the center's International Scientific Committee, approached the group. "What you're achieving here goes beyond genetic preservation or rehabilitation. You're redefining the relationship between humans and horses." Jack looked around. He saw Emma directing a team of international veterinarians, Anthony working with new horses in recovery, Dr. Mitchell sharing knowledge with a new generation of researchers. He saw the dream turned into reality. "You know," he reflected, "when I bought Lightning that day, everyone thought I was rescuing a horse, but the truth is, he rescued all of us. He reminded us that there's always hope, that greatness can emerge from the darkest moments. And that second chances," Sarah added, gently taking his hand, "are sometimes better than the first." At that moment, a powerful neigh from Lightning drew all eyes. The setting sun bathed him in golden light as he galloped freely, followed by his offspring, in a natural demonstration of strength and elegance that left all present breathless. Lightning's legacy, Dr. Gutierrez concluded, is not just genetic. It's a reminder that with love, dedication, and the right purpose, we can transform not only individual lives but the entire world. As the sun set over Sunrise Ranch, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Jack understood that this wasn't an ending, but a new beginning. Each dawn would bring new opportunities, new stories of overcoming, new miracles to discover. And in the stables, Lightning, the horse that had changed everything, rested peacefully, his noble presence a living testimony that the biggest dreams begin with a simple act of faith.